Well, here we are. COVID-19 and no COVID-19. Look, things are quite depressing, obviously, around the world. So I thought I'd do something a little bit different this week. Because in the southern hemisphere, spring is coming. In the northern hemisphere, winter is coming. And I'm standing here in front of part of my vegetable garden. I'm lucky enough to have a little bit of piece of land where I can actually grow my winter vegetables. And I'm just going to grab them and I'm going to show you what you can do, because unfortunately with COVID-19 a lot of people are basically housebound. About half the population is working from home, about another quarter is unemployed. Currently this is in Australia I'm talking about. And a lot of people are spending a lot of time on Zoom and Facebook and WhatsApp and Snapchat and the list goes on and on, endless, endless. TikTok, the list is endless, and hardly ever get outside to see the sunshine. And obviously if COVID-19 is going to be around for some time, and hopefully you're all taking the necessary precautions in order not to get it, because it can be quite nasty for some people, especially the elderly and people with comorbidities, that's multiple illnesses. It can be a real issue. So what am I doing here? Well, this is my winter garden behind me. I'm growing cauliflower and spring onions and carrots and turnips and broccoli and lettuce and whatever you can think of, radishes, I'm growing. And I think it's important, whether you live in the city, whether you live in a regional area, whether you live in the country, that you have a little bit of plot of land. And if you haven't got a plot of land, you can always grow things in tubs and baskets and plastic containers. And as spring is coming, it is one way in which to kill time, do something productive. Everybody's got to eat sooner or later, and obviously you'll be able to enjoy the fruits of your labour. But what it does is it gets you out into the sunshine, even if it's your balcony. Gets you out, and if you haven't got a balcony, you can actually open the window and put the containers on the windowsill. They can get sun, and you can grow tomatoes and different types of spring vegetables. Now that it's the end of July, early August, now is the time to start thinking about spring planting, because growing things is good for the body and the soul. I think it's much better than exercise, because you are exercising at the same time you're getting something in response. And it's also a good way via which to cope with all the issues related to COVID-19. Sickness, social isolation, depression, lack of work, unemployment, a future which is curtailed, inability to socialise, and the list goes on and on. Obviously in different parts of Australia we have different degrees of COVID-19, and in the Melbourne metropolitan region, the Mitchell Shire, which is just north of Melbourne, there's a grade 3 lockdown, and people are wearing masks because of the spread of COVID-19 in the community. So what can you do? Well, I'm going to duck away for a little second while you have a look at the vegetable garden. I'm going to pick up 2 things I've just cut from the garden. This is my winter garden. I do a spring summer garden and an autumn winter garden. These things were planted in early autumn, and as we're reaching the end of winter, now's harvest time. So I'm going to duck down, grab 2 little pieces that I've just cut from the garden to show you what you can do. And you don't actually need to have land. You can actually do it on a landing. You may not be able to grow much, but you'll grow a little bit, and do something a little bit different to fill in your time and make life a little bit worthwhile. While here I am in the sunshine, or the late afternoon, you can hear a rooster possibly in the background, birds, and COVID-19 affects us as human beings, but it's one thing it doesn't affect is the animals and the birds and the plants around us. And although our particular time on the planet is particularly difficult currently, they keep living their life. Now, as I said before, I'm going to duck down, I'm going to show you what you can do. Now this is a broccoli which I've just cut. This is a broccoli I've just cut from the garden. It's one of a number, about I've got 6 or 7 broccoli plants, and this will be enough to make sure that we have something to eat. It's fresh, it's organic, it's smells great, unlike what you buy in the supermarkets, which basically spend most of their life in cool rooms. Much of the stuff that you see is artificially ripened because it's all about carrying it from there to distribution centres in the supermarket. So you can grow something like this. Not now, because spring is coming. This is a winter crop. Now, something you can grow all year round, which anybody can grow, even I can grow it, which means anybody can grow it, is lettuce. Now this is a lettuce I've just picked from the garden behind me. As you can see, it's an extraordinary lettuce that could keep a family eating like rabbits for a few weeks. And you'll notice that I've got netting over the garden. I've had netting over the garden most of the winter, and that's to prevent insects from getting in, prevent animals from getting in, prevent birds from getting in. That's why you can actually get something of this quality, organically grown, no chemicals of any type, in a backyard. It's quite easy to do. So, how do you go about growing spring vegetables? Well, the first thing is you need to work out how much space you've got. How much space you've got. And whether that space is indoor or outdoor will determine what you're going to grow. The next thing you need to do, and now's the time to start, is to prepare the soil. You need to prepare the soil. If it's in pots, you can use potting mix, which you can buy relatively cheaply at most garden centres. Or, if you're lucky enough to have your own compost bin, you can actually use compost and lay it down. Now, a few little tricks of the trade. If you've got a fireplace and you've got spare ash, mixing ash into the soil about a week after. If you're going to turn the soil on the ground, turn the soil, remove the weeds, get your furrows ready. It's usually good to raise them above the ground. It's usually good to raise them above the ground, get the furrows ready, and a week after you've got the furrows ready, work in some ash, wood ash. And if you haven't got any wood ash, well, you can use you could use potting mix. I usually find using potting mix in the soil if the soil is poor, or using your compost and using ash creates quite a nice healthy soil. And once you've done that, let it lie for 2 or 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks. You need to mix all the stuff in and let it lie, and then at the end of 3 to 4 weeks you use you hoe it again, and if it's in a pot you just turn it over with your fingers. So don't be frightened of getting your fingers dirty. It's only dirt, you can wash it off. It's a little bit like blood and vomit, you can wash it off, not like grease or oil where you have a lot of trouble washing it off. And that's why I never wanted to be a mechanic, because I can't stand grease on my fingers. And when I left high school I had a choice. I could have become an engineer or I could have become a doctor, and decided to become a doctor because 1, you wear gloves, and 2, you can always wash blood, vomit and shit off your hands. Doesn't leave any greasy stains. But that's to the aside. Now, what are you going to grow? Well, what you're going to grow depends on the amount of space you have and the height of that space. Obviously it needs to be near direct sunlight. You can go on a windowsill if you haven't got a balcony. If you've got a balcony and you're living in an apartment in the inner city, you can actually put plastic pots, and the ground has been prepared on the balcony, and you can actually grow anything in those pots. If you haven't got pots, plastic pots, you can use old tubs and make sure that there is drainage. It's important that if it's on a balcony you do, or on a windowsill, you have something underneath the pot and some holes in the pot so that it drains. Now, what are you going to do? If you're going to plant seeds, now's the time to plant them, and the best time would be is to have a greenhouse. I'm not talking about some, fancy tens of thousands of dollars worth of glass, but a simple plastic greenhouse. You can buy them for about $40. If you set up your greenhouse, you can actually start using seeds and propagate those seeds. Some people propagate them outside, but it's much easier in a greenhouse because it contains space, and once the soil reaches a particular temperature, the seeds germinate. If you haven't got a greenhouse, or if you don't want to waste your time, or you haven't got the time to germinate seeds, then what I suggest you do is you go to your local garden place in early spring and pick the vegetables you like. Pick them small. You can always grow lettuce, as I said before, all year round. Tomato plants are good. You don't have to buy huge, expensive, large tomato plants. You can buy little tomato plants. If you propagated the seeds, you'll have hundreds. You won't know what to do with them. Just give them away to friends to grow. You can grow zucchinis, you can grow eggplant, you can grow cucumbers, you can grow squash, and my favourite, you can grow pumpkins. Obviously you can't, it'd be very difficult growing pumpkins on a balcony, but maybe butter pumpkins, they're quite small, but squash, zucchinis, you could get away on a balcony. You wouldn't get away in a pot. In a pot, things like an eggplant and little trees, maybe chilies. Chilies are always good to grow in pots, and tomatoes are always good to grow in pots. So, and it's really a matter of giving them a little bit of fertiliser. If you haven't got any money to buy fertiliser, you can always use scraps that you've got. They'll help to fertilise the plant, and at the same time they need water, not too much water. As the sun's going down over the horizon, I've just moved to a more sunny position, and the key is what you need to grow things is very simple: soil, water and sun, especially in spring. And as I said before, it's an interest which is outside your little study or your room. Gets you out of the house, puts you in the sunshine, allows you to go to your balcony, and if you haven't got a balcony, you can actually watch the what's going on near your windowsill. So growing things is a great way of actually blowing away the COVID-19 cobwebs, because human beings are social animals. I mean, what has got us this far is our ability to be able to work collectively together and socialise with other people. It's totally unnatural for human beings to be isolated and to be cooped up in a house, and in many regards to be working from home. It is an unnatural thing. We are social animals. We come together for important occasions. We come together for a meal publicly. We come together when we go shopping. We are social animals. We are herd animals. That's what human beings are. And the fact that we cannot congregate as we normally did, that we can't travel extensively, that we're locked down in our homes, that we're facing financial catastrophe, that some of us are sick, some of us are having increasing difficulties coping mentally with the social isolation, especially people who have very few friends and have limited mobility, people who are sick. So it is an important time to do things that are not virtual, and there's nothing more real than actually planting things. There's nothing more real than growing food. Even if you grow a simple chili plant, it's something that you can look forward to growing and producing chilies for you. Obviously, you can be much more sophisticated and grow many other things. What you can grow is limited by the type of and space that you have, because we now all have extra time on our hands, and instead of rotting our brains watching TV or getting angry on social media and living in the virtual world, why don't we actually make use of what we've got? A little pot, a bit of soil, a bit of water, a bit of sun. Why don't we make use of it and grow something this spring? Let's see who is willing to take up the challenge, even if you've never grown anything before in your life. The fact that you are cooped up at home, cooped up in your flat, cooped up in your little suburban home somewhere out there, means that you have that potential and you have the time to grow things. Have a look on social media, see what you can grow, see how to prepare your plants. If you go to my Facebook page, Joseph Toscano, I think about 3 or 4 months ago I set out an article on how to prepare the soil for winter and spring planting. It was good to see that some people followed that advice and they're eating their greens now. So it's up to you. It's like everything else in life. You can watch life go past you. You can watch it go past you through your window. And unfortunately, most of us are now in the position that we watch life go past us through our windows because of the COVID-19 restrictions. But you can make the best of the bad situation, and you can actually grow things this spring. Now is the time to start preparing your soil. Now is the time to decide what you want to grow. Now is the time to find out about how to grow things. Now is the time to get stuck into it, because there's nothing better than, as I showed you before, produce that you produce yourself. Not only is it fresh, not only is it organic, not only is it full of life, but importantly is you did it, you grow it. You can grow it for your friends, you can grow it for your family, grow it for yourself, because there is nothing better than homegrown food for your mind and your soul. And during the COVID-19 lockdown, now is the time to take up the challenge and grow food. Now, I know this particular YouTube presentation is not a weighty presentation, but life is about the little things. And sometimes all we have control over is the little things. And it's the little things that we are able to control. It's the little things that we can do which make life bearable. As my friends the birds who've just flown over have told me, Joe, go away. We want to go to bed. It's getting late. You're in our spot. Go home. Okay, I'm going home, but you've got to promise me that you're going to try to grow something this year for your own enjoyment, mental health, and for your family and friends. All the best during the COVID-19 lockdown. Hopefully in the next few weeks things will be a little different for many of us living in Australia and around the world. All the best, and once again, don't forget, if you want to make that big political step forward, join PIPSI, Public Interest Before Corporate Interests. No, we won't teach you how to grow vegetables, but we will teach you how to make life unbearable with that small section of society that owns the means of production, distribution, exchange and communication, and their parliamentary puppets in the Australian Parliament and parliaments around the world. Go to PIBCI, pibci.net, download the application form. Haven't got a computer because you're too busy growing vegetables and fruits? Well, you can always leave a message on 0439 395 489, or you can write to me at Post Office Box 20, Parkville 3052. Stay safe till next week.